Hey everybody, this is Mr. Storm. Welcome to this video. In this video, we are actually going to continue working on our original game project. Now, I've added in some new assets. I've brought in my enemy here, and the enemy is really just going to be a very simple animation, just open mouth, close mouth animation. I've also brought in my character sprite sheet, which for me, the first two frames are its idle animation. It's just going to kind of bob up and down a little bit. The next two frames are its running animation, and the last two frames are its jumping animation. And then I have three variations of my collectible here that I can actually change. That way it adds some variation to what collectibles look like in the game. They don't all want to, I didn't want mine to all look the same. So I have my collectibles attached to my sprite sheet. Your collectibles may be different, so you might want to bring them in separately. But for me, this is what I have. And then scripts. There are 3 scripts which you can download off of the Canvas page that we're going to use in this step of the process. Okay, let's get our enemy working. So the idea behind this enemy is I want him just to kind of like walk back and forth on this platform right here above my character. Now, in this first level for my game, the character's not even going to be able to jump. He's just going to be stuck to the ground, not be able to jump. So I want this enemy to be there to add some more dynamic, look to the game, but I don't really want him to do anything. I just want him to be there for decoration, I guess. So let's go ahead and set up the enemy. I'm going to make it 32 pixels per unit. I'm going to change the filter, and let's hit apply there. I want to make it multiple on the sprite mode. Now let's go ahead and slice him out. Let's keep it automatic. That works fine. Hit apply. Okay, so now I have my enemy here. I'm going to grab both frames of my enemy sprite and drag them right into there. Now I want to create a new folder. I'm going to call this animations, because I don't want my sprite folder getting too busy. Let's call the animation enemy. Okay, so now we have an, delete. So now we have our angry ball. Let's rename him to, I'll just rename him to angry ball. That works. Okay, I want to tag him as an enemy. This is important for the script. You want to make sure you tag your enemies as enemies. So I'm going to come up here and go to add tag, and then you want to add in a new enemy tag. Enemy. Save. And now when I go back to angry ball, I can choose the enemy tag down here. So now he's tagged as an enemy, which is important. I also need, let's see, what else do I need? I need let's give him a circle collider, because he's a circle. And I need a rigid body 2D. Rigid body 2D. Let's freeze his rotation. Okay. Now let's take a look at the script I have. So I have this enemy patrol script. Now, the enemy patrol script, if we look here, it's going to be looking for these two objects called point 1 and point 2. Basically, when it hits point 1, it's going to reverse and go back the other way. When it hits point 2, it's going to reverse and go back the other way. So we want point 1 to be on the left of our character, and we want point 2 to be on the right. Now, what is point 1 and point 2? Well, these can be empty game objects with triggers applied to them. So as a child of our angry ball, or our enemy, whatever you're calling your enemy, I'm going to create an empty game object. I'm going to rename it and call this one point 1, because we're setting its first patrol. I'm going to create another empty game object. We'll call this point 2. All right, so now we have 2 of these objects that are attached. I'm going to make the first one green, just so I can see it, and I will move it out to about there. That looks good. And then point 2, let's make that red, and let's move that out about to there. Okay, now let's add, I'm going to select both of them now, and I'm going to add a box collider. to both of them. Let's shrink the colliders a little bit here because I don't need them to get, yeah, I want them to bump right there. And let's set both colliders to triggers. Okay, so now they're both triggers. So when he runs into this, he should turn around and start the other way. So let's add the enemy patrol script to our angry ball. Okay, so we have our enemy patrol script. Now it's looking for point 1 and point 2. So all we have to do is drag these objects into these spots in the script, point 1 and point 2. And I think at this point our enemy should be working properly. Let's go ahead and hit play and see if he goes on patrol. Uh-oh. Okay, so everything's working properly, but my enemy can't go anywhere. He can't do anything. Here's the reason why. So this tile map collider that we've added, it's a bit, I don't know, jaggedy, janky. I don't know what word you want to use, but it kind of gets caught, right? So enemies and our player, quite frankly, will get caught on this thing if we start, or if we try to move on it. So here's one solution. Let's go to our assets folder, create a new folder. We'll call this materials. And in our materials folder, let's create a new physics material 2D. We'll call this level. And in the level material, we're going to set the friction to 0. Grab your tile map and go to the tile map collider 2D and drag that physics material into the material section. So that'll reduce all friction on our level. It'll make it a little slidey, but at least our character will move like it's supposed to. Okay, so now he's moving, and he didn't collide with that point. So let's figure out what happened there. Point 1 is a trigger. Point 1, point 2. All right. That's strange. He should have collided with that. Let's try making these not a child of that object to see if maybe that's causing an interference that it doesn't like. Yep, that's what it was. So we don't want to make them children of the angry ball. So we'll make sure they're just outside of the angry ball. Okay, that works. Okay, so now we have our enemy is on patrol. He's doing his thing. Or she. I don't want to gender the enemy. So now I just need to get my main character in the level and get them moving around. Now the animation for my main character is going to be a bit different, right? It's going to be a bit more complicated than the enemy. The enemy is just one animation. So for my main character, let's first set it up 32 pixels per unit. Turn off the filter. Let's set it to multiple sprite mode. Hit apply. Go into the sprite editor. And now I want to slice this. And yeah, that should be fine. Let's hit apply. Okay, so let's get my idle animation working. It's these first two sprites. I'm going to drop that in right there. We'll put that in my animations folder. We'll call this idle. All right, then we'll get my run animation going. Bring that in, put it in my animations folder, and call this run. And then finally we will get the jump animation. Bring that in, put it in my animations folder, and call this jump. Okay, perfect. So now we have 3 main characters, but we only want 1, so I'll delete the last 2, rename the first one. Oh, I'll just call it player. That works. That's fine. Okay, let's go into our animations folder. Let's get rid of these 2 animator controllers because we don't need them. And let's open up this animator controller here. Okay, so we have our idle as default. We want to bring in jump, and we want to bring in run. Okay, All right, so let's think about the parameters we're going to need. And let's take a look at the script, actually, that our player controller is going to have attached to him. So let's see, we have is jumping and is running. So let's set up two parameters, two Boolean parameters. One for is running. And we'll set one for is jumping. Perfect. So now we can make our transition. So let's make a transition from idle to jump. We will turn off exit time, set is jumping to true. Let's make a transition from jump back to idle. Turn off has exit time, set is jumping to false. Let's go from idle to run. Uncheck has exit time, set is running to true. Let's go from running back to idle. Turn off has exit time, set is running to false. All right. From jump to run, has exit time. Let's keep is running true and add another condition, is jumping false. And then from run to jump, uncheck has exit time and set is jumping to true. Okay, so at this point, our animator controller should be working perfectly for our main character. Alrighty. Okay, let's see, what else do we need? Well, we need a rigid body. So let's add a rigid body 2D. I'm going to change my gravity scale to 5. And I'm going to uncheck, or I'm going to check freeze rotation. Let's add, for my character, he's more of a circle, so I'm going to add a circle collider 2D. And that's a little bit, I want it to sink in just a little bit more than that. So let's edit the collider and let's shrink it by just a little bit. Okay, that's perfect. That looks good. Okay. And now I want to add the player controller script. Let's drop that in there. And in the player controller script, we have a bunch of options. Now, these are options that are going to be more important to us later on in the game for the most part, but there are some that we need to pay attention to. For example, move speed. I can already tell move speed is going to be way too high at 15. We have our sliding option here. We have our jump force. Then we have total pickups. So total pickups are going to be basically when we add a bunch of pickups into our game, we want to set the total for that level right here on the player controller, because the player controller script is going to compare how many pickups we've picked up versus how many pickups exist in that total level. And it's going to say, hey, you can't leave the level until you pick up all of the objects. Now, that's the way my game works. I recommend you do the same. Basically have the end of the level be contingent upon getting all the pickups in the level while avoiding enemies, right? So that's what I would recommend. If you want to do something different, you'd have to modify the script, which we can do, I guess. But for me, I'm just going to have it be set by that. So if I set it to 0, then it's just going to constantly be loading the level. So I'll set it to 10. I'm not going to put any pickups in here, so it'll always stay under 10. Then also we want level to load. The level to load is going to be the level that loads whenever we finish this level, when we pick up all of the pickups and we finish the level. So I'm just going to type level 1 because that's the only level in here that we care about for today. But you have to have that in there or you're going to have errors that get thrown at you whenever you try to play the game. Okay, at this point I should be able to check to see if my animations are working. And I should be able, okay, that is a very fast idle animation. I'm going to want to change that. Let's check my run. Okay, that looks good. The run looks pretty good. It's still a little fast though. Okay, let's try my jump. Okay, well, jump is kind of exiting out of the jump animation too quickly. All right, so let's tweak the animations here a little bit. Let's go to my animator controller. With jump, let's look at the jump animation. It is looping. I wonder what loop pose does. Okay. Let's loop seamlessly. Why not? The run animation, though, in here, I want to reduce by half, and I want to reduce my idle by half. All right. Yeah. Let's try it out. See if that animation is a little bit nicer. That looks a little better. Okay. So that feels better. So it's still playing the animation once and then going back to let me do this. I'm going to kind of test the game out a little bit while looking at my animator to see what is actually being triggered. So idle is running now. Let me move this over a little bit. So idle is running. Now run is working. It's going back to idle in the middle of my run. So let's think about what we want to do to fix that. Let's move game back over here. Troubleshooting while I'm making a video is always my favorite thing. That was sarcasm. Okay, so let's look at this transition from, so it says let's set has exit time for this and see if that affects it at all. It's still going back early. Maybe it's somewhere in my script. All right, whatever. If it's in the script, I will fix it before, before you guys play around with it. But it's probably just some little tweak that I need to make somewhere. But either way, I mean, it's fine. It looks good enough and it works. So I want you to get your enemy walking back and forth. I want you to get your main character to animate properly. And, we're pretty close to getting this game ready to fully build out. Only things that we need to add are, sound effects, a user interface so that we can see what's going on the screen. And then we just need to finish building out all the levels and making sure all the interactions are working and stuff like that. Adding in the collectibles and whatnot. But we're getting pretty close. So I'm going to let you guys, work on your game for a little while, and I'll see you next time.